secure anymore. So basically, it is being abandoned. There is no more work going to be done on the operating system, and the last update you got is the last update you will ever get. And what are the ramifications and implications of actually using that operating system from from now on? That's what we're going to talk about as well. So first off, the timing of this. When does it end? And it was announced quite a long time ago, and it's been on the roadmap from Microsoft that, in about a month, July 14th, is the end of support. That's the last day anybody's going to address anything Server 2003 at Microsoft. After that date, it is what it is. It will no longer be supported from Microsoft. So it's just over a month, right at a month away. Yep. So July 14th, 2015 is the end date. So that's it. We're about there.
We're getting close. Yep. And one of the things we wanted to talk about, because a lot of questions that we get asked is, what does it mean, if we don't upgrade? Why should we upgrade? And we want to get into a little bit of that aspect on some of the risks associated with it.
The risk of not upgrading. If you just do nothing, let your server run, think to yourself, my server's running great. It's been there for a long time. It's doing what it does, and it does it well. What does it mean if I just do nothing? So here are some of the risks. Security breaches. I alluded to that earlier. There's always new threats out there, always new people trying to get into your server, get into your data, get your data. So in response to those, Microsoft releases security patches. That's what they do. They plug those holes that are there. And that's not going to happen anymore. If there is a security breach or some kind of security hole that is found in Server 2003, it's just going to remain there. And so there will no longer be patches from that point forward. Lack of support, that means there's nobody to call at Microsoft. Up to now, there's a 1-800 number. You can get a support case with Microsoft. They can help you with your server operating system. There'll be techs on the other end from Microsoft that can get in there and help you with your issues. That goes away. There is nobody to call. Some things in the business world to address is non-compliancy. For example, a financial institution, if you're running Server 2003, after that July date, by default, you're out of compliance. There is no discussion anymore about your compliancy and your data security. You're just out of compliance with your regulators. Same thing in medical and other industries that rely on those regulations and auditors and such to look at your data and your security. There's just, that's the first question that will be asked and answered moving forward, and the first suggestion that is made. You have to get off that operating system and move forward to something newer. And then also, new software that's developed, new applications that are developed, they just won't run on an older architecture. I could get into the technicalities of it, 16-bit, 32, 64, those kinds of things. The newer applications are going to be designed for a newer operating system, so you could come across an application or some software from a vendor of yours that simply just will not run on an older operating system, so it can't work. So those are just a few of the highlights of what would happen if you decided to stay on your existing operating system.
Yeah, so a lot of the risks, we're coming up here about a month away, and so there's some options that you have available, and it comes up a lot, especially today with the cloud and into the server world. Where the direction is going with these upgrades, and kind of, is it a physical upgrade? Can I just upgrade my software and keep the hardware?
Well, let's talk about that a little bit, about what's new then, and that could make your decision for you, your next steps. So let's just talk about some of the newer things that are included with a newer operating system like Server 2012 or some others that just weren't around back in 2002, 3, 4 when these 2003 was installed on some of these older servers. Virtualization is big in the industry right now. It's turning something physical into a software product, whether that be a server, a PC, anything else like that. that really, it was more difficult back in 2003, not impossible. It's built into a newer operating system like Server 2012. It's part of it. It's planned for from the beginning, right out of the box, with Hyper-V underlying that. Improved system scale. There were limits to Server 2003 as far as how much hard drive space it could recognize in any partition, how much RAM it could use. There were just literally physical limitations about what it could recognize, and then growing from there, you just could not do that. Newer operating systems are scalable in a massive proportions with clustering of servers, making these servers all look like one and act like one, share resources, their ability to use those resources on demand. It's called elastic resource sharing, where they can push and pull memory and hard drive space and respond to the needs of the applications on demand. So just those things are more flexible in the operating systems now compared to 2003. Managing the servers is much more fluid and easier and more intuitive. It was a little more heavy lifting back in 2003 to get the server to actually do what you wanted it to do. When new software came on board and new applications were introduced to get them to work and work well and smooth. Now with some scripting operations and PowerShell, it's much easier to do that. With today's, I'll move on to the next one, with today's mobile worker, working from home, fellow workers, the remote access to these servers is set up much easier. It's much more secure, so it's the operating system itself has moved into the world we live in right now, where people are working more remotely. And it's made for the web, too. I just mentioned mobile devices. In 2003, we were talking yesterday, I can't remember if I had a smartphone in 2003 that actually accessed my work resources.
Right.
And I could do my work and do my job on my phone while I'm out mobile. That's the case nowadays probably more often than not, especially us. We're out there in the field doing our jobs, so we need to have access to our resources back at the office, and it's made to do that again out of the box. It's made for the web, made for people to access things remotely, securely access them remotely. And then data center capabilities, which kind of harkens back to the scalability of it and the ability of the newer operating system to scale in such a way that they can house all the data that you need, and you can put in multiple servers, and they can all talk to each other, and you can have an intelligent data center that can respond to the needs that you throw at it every day. So those are just a few of the points of what's different now, which has been led by the landscape that we live in, and the needs of the workers and the needs of the applications and data. So the industry has had to respond to those needs and update their operating systems, which is why they're out there. And the ability to just make an older operating system do those things that we needed it to do just isn't there. So.
And just the way the technology has been changing from, Server 2003 was in development prior to 2003, and the technology where it is today just was not available back in those times. So, that's definitely a lot of enhancements that really can tie in, especially with the mobile workforce, the teleworkers, and those types of situations that, the new softwares are really designed for that access and that connectivity to make it, more user-friendly, more efficient, and enhance productivity.
And it's not just server that is end of life. It's happened with Windows XP, Microsoft Office 2003, Server 2003. They've all come end of life because we've needed to move everybody and all of the operating system applications to a newer set of applications that run well in today's world. So like you said before, what are your options? What can you do now? And this has been out there a long time, but we still see customers running Server 2003. I was at a customer site just yesterday, and the need was identified at an older server on site that needed to be upgraded, so we had to have a discussion about why and plan for that and plan to move, so they understand that now. So we still see these older operating systems out there. I still see Windows XP even in some customer sites. So the need to upgrade is there. It's there now. So there are still people running these older operating systems. So we're just trying to give you some insight into why it's a good idea to move forward as well. So options to do that, obviously: replace your server, upgrade it, make sure that the hardware you're running on, if it has been purchased in the last few years, can be upgraded to it, which there are tools from Microsoft to analyze your existing equipment to actually ensure that it would run and run well on your existing equipment, or upgrade it to make it run, buy new, those kinds of things. So
what would be one of the, I guess maybe a top priority or top two of why, or what limitations you would have if you wanted to just try and keep your existing hardware and just upgrade the operating system?
If you just wanted to upgrade the operating system, literally the component drivers, whether or not the newer operating system can see and actually talk to and control some of the older hardware, hard drives, RAM, processors, those kinds of things, controllers, the boards themselves. So the literal physical equipment soldered down to the board, it may not be supported in the newer operating system, which is why the tools are out there to analyze your existing hardware. Just the ability for the newer software to run multiple cores, multiple processors and things like that is enhanced as well, which is actually a good reason for you to upgrade, because the one thing that just popped into my head too is your older equipment is so much less efficient probably too in its power demands, just its cooling demands and things like that as well. So there may be even some hidden costs in there that could offset some of the capital and software purchases that you would need to make to upgrade as well.
One of the things I think of too, just looking at the hardware is if you're running Server 2003 on it, you've probably had it for quite some time.
And so we're warranty probably.
Exactly. We're talking about end of support, end of service for 2003. Those are the questions to ask and look at as well. Is your physical hardware, is it still supported? Is it still under warranty? So you're really getting that whole package. And you couple that with doing an OS upgrade, you're going to have some labor and some time involved in doing that. And I think if you kind of take that comparison of, what's it going to cost just to upgrade software versus, a complete system upgrade, you may not be looking at too much extra money, and then you're getting a whole new system.
Yes, the hardware costs are just a part of it. Yes,
right.
Absolutely. When dealing with the complexities of moving data and such. Another one on here is moving to the cloud. We see that as an option for a lot of our customers, where they just don't want to have a server on their premise anymore. They don't want that liability. They don't want to pay for the electricity to do it. They want it in a data center that is manned 24/7, monitored 24/7, and they know that it's safe and secure, so they can move that to the cloud and have somebody else take care of that for them, update it for them, make sure that it's running, and then respond to issues as they arise in a timely manner and fix things maybe even before you know they're an issue. So moving to the cloud definitely is an option. And to tell you the truth, a lot of what I've seen at our customer sites is that the applications that used to be server-based, the actual the vendors of their applications are providing that software as a service in the cloud now. Instead of you loading the data on your own server, on your own premise, they'll take care of that for you. You go over the internet to access your data and do your work. So I think this migration to the cloud has been application driven for quite a while. I see it in schools where you used to have a server for this and that, for your reading program, for your student management system. All of those vendors now actually offer that as a service to the schools. And by and large, most of the schools have moved to that model. Instead of buying a whole lot of new servers, they just invest that money in connectivity and to the internet so that those applications run well through the internet and the cloud.
And it's also a great time, when you're going through and evaluating that infrastructure, talking about upgrades and things, it's a good time to kind of reevaluate of, what applications are available in the cloud, what services can move to the cloud. Over the years, with Server 2003, we're talking over 10 years that that your needs can change, the way your system is designed and set up could change. So it's a good time to kind of go through and determine, is this the quantity of servers I need? And that really ties into that hybrid solution of what do I need for physical servers, what can I move to the cloud, and how does that fit in my business?
Yeah, a lot of the businesses and customer sites I visit, they're actually running a hybrid version already. They have assets and a server sitting there on site with their own files and folders, and everybody authenticates to that. And it's the old traditional model of having the server on site and the PCs and everything connecting to it. You have your own domain. And then, like I said, gradually they've moved some of those applications off to the cloud. And so they're in a hybrid environment already. Local assets, physical there on site, plus some cloud assets that they access over the internet, and they do some work that way as well. So the hybrid model, actually, what the industry is saying that I read about is the model that a lot of businesses will adopt and how they'll run.
I think that's just kind of the direction of the industry is to, a lot of the applications are moving to the cloud, and I mean, you even think from the low end side of things, or the basic software from Microsoft Office, Office 365 to the Adobe clouds and those types of things is down to the granular software is moving that direction. So that hybrid approach is probably going to be a good fit for a lot of customers.
It is. I guess that's about it. That's all we had. It's time for questions.
Yes, we do have a few questions already entered, but if you have any more, go ahead and enter them in the questions pane. And I will remind everybody that our next webinar is 1 week from today, starting at 11 a.m. The fastest 16 minutes in technology. We're going to be talking about smart wireless LANs or virtualist wireless controllers. First question I have for you guys. What if your main program is only supported with 08 server? They haven't done testing with the 12 and are therefore unaware of operating problems.
When you buy a license for Server 2012, you do have downgrade rights to Server 2008 R2. Even down to a 32-bit version of that. So, and that's Microsoft's model. Generally, in the past, moving forward, is any newer operating system, you have downgrade rights to the previous one as well.
All right, next question. Where can we find the tools from Microsoft that can help check our server hardware that was mentioned?
Oh, when I was researching this yesterday, I came across it simply by doing a Google or a web search for end of support for 2003, and the TechNet page from Microsoft literally splashed it right in front of me. There's a tool you can download and run on your server to analyze your equipment and prepare yourself for the upgrade to 2012. I don't have the exact page memorized, but I know it was super easy to find when I just did some basic research on end of support for 2003. Microsoft is not hiding that at all. It's very prominent when you do some searching about this issue.
Another question about the cloud. How secure is the cloud? If the internet is down, then they cannot access their data, correct?
Yes, those are all issues that have to be taken into account when making decision to move the data off-premise. Security can be approached in many, many ways. It's an issue, but not an issue that can't be solved. Generally, there's a secure connection between your site and wherever that data is. It's just a matter of making sure that secure connection is good and robust and encrypted. And as far as the internet going down, like I said, that's just it's a weight factor that you have to take into consideration when moving your business out into the cloud. And really just analyze how much your internet is down on any given week, month, year, and then do the number crunching of the ramifications of that.
A good recommendation on that too is you can always look at having a redundant internet connection
absolutely.
with a firewall that has failover. So you might have 2 providers bringing in a connection. So if you do have an issue with one provider, you can fail over to the other. Those types of situations. Also, we did talk about some mobile working and remote access. So So if it's a case where maybe the internet goes down at the office or the main site, you might have some laptops or some capability that you could go to, a secondary location or somewhere where you can get connectivity and access, the data in that fashion.
One more question. Is there an end-of-life date for Server 2008?
I'm sure there is. I haven't seen it yet, but I can find out. Microsoft generally has a timeline out at least 10 years for these operating systems. So I'm sure it's out there, but it just hasn't hit my radar yet because it's probably at least 5 years down the road. And that's just knowing that there was a 5-year gap between 2003 and 2008. I'm assuming in about 5 years we'll be talking about the end of life of support for 2008.
Okay, that's all the questions we have today. I do want to let everybody know this webinar was recorded and will be on our nextech.com/free webinar page within 24 to 48 hours for your review again. And Mark and Lauren have their information on the screen. If you have any questions, feel free to give them a call, and thank you for joining us.